Greetings and welcome to Pinball Help. Mike here. Today I was in the middle of breaking down a pinball machine and I thought, have I done a video on this? So rather than complete the whole thing, I figured I would stop, set the camera up, and talk about how I break down a pinball machine to store and or possibly a precursor to shipping. This is not actually broken down to be shipped. This is broken down to be stored right now. But let me go over how you do this and how one person can actually break down a pinball machine. It is entirely possible, although you really do want more than one person for obvious reasons. You don't want to hurt your back. You don't want to injure yourself. But it is possible for somebody who has a reasonable amount of strength to break down and set up, even move these machines. But it's always recommended you have other people. But let me tell you what I'm doing. So this is obviously, it's a Bally Party Zone. I really love this game. I'm going to put it in a room with black lights, so I'm packing it up right now until I get that room cleared out since I need the space. So what I've done, let's talk about how you break a machine down. So the first thing you really want to do is you want to go into the machine and you want to get the balls out of it. You want to remove anything inside of the machine that could bounce around, coin box and stuff like that. Now you can keep the coin box in there if it's secured into its area behind the door. If there's a bunch of stuff in there, put the stuff in a bag, tape the bag to inside the coin box is what I'll do. I'll often take the coin box and I will put the balls inside of a Ziploc bag and then pad it with some bubble wrap and stuff like that, and tape it to the box, stick the box in there so nothing, you don't want anything rattling around. You want to secure everything in the game. Now I've seen people take newspaper or paper towels and push them into the kick-out lane and actually kind of trap the balls in the machine. That is something you can do. I like to just completely take them out of the machine, put them in a separate little padded thing inside. And so that's what I've done. The second step, which is, we're past that, but I'm going to go into it, is you want to fold the back down. Now, depending upon the game, there may be 2 or more bolts on the inside of the head that are bolting the game down. This applies to early solid states and later. The electromechanical games and some early solid states, you couldn't fold the head down. You had to actually take it off, and that can be a big pain. Sometimes you can unbolt it but leave it on top of the game. Other times you can completely disassemble it. Most electromechanical games will have a couple of plugs in the back. You unplug them, you unbolt it, you can actually separate the head and store and ship the game in 2 pieces. These more modern games, they can't be separated, but you can fold the head down. It's on hinges. So you check to make sure it's not bolted in the inside. And then there's also, let me bring the camera around here, and we'll take a look at it from the back. So there's also a clip right here that clips onto a little clamp up here. In in a home use environment, this may be the only thing holding it on. If you're not really manhandling the game, you don't need to have it. But see, there's 2 holes right down here and here. And this game has 2 bolts from the inside, so you want to make sure those are out. Now on the Stern games, depending upon the era, they may have a single hex kind of nut here that you use with a hex wrench to unscrew the lockdown. The more later games, they'll have 2 bolts on the back here. You'll see I've got a Jurassic Park right here, and this is how they lock the heads on the Jurassic Park. There's a bolt here. No, bolt right here and a bolt over there. And you can see they're pretty obviously labeled with attention, install 2 bolts to secure. Okay, so then what you do is with the game on all 4 legs and flat, you can wrap the game. Let me take this cord out of the way. So this is what I've done. I like to use a ratcheting strap. You don't have to put it on tight, just enough to just keep it from staying down. And then I'll put some cardboard around on the inside of that. So we got the ratcheting strap going around, and we got the cardboard, so it's not touching anything. Now, if you're going to ship this game, you want to cover it completely in cardboard. You want to put get some big pieces of cardboard box and put them around every corner and all over it. And then you want to get some of that stretch wrap and stretch it. And you want to pay close attention if you're going to use ratchet straps that these things don't dig into the cabinet. You want to be very careful where this is and this is, so that and you don't really need to ratchet a whole lot, but when you do ratchet up, you want to make sure it's not going to dig in through the cabinet. I'm basically storing this in my living room, so I don't need to tighten it down too much. I just want to keep it, you know, in one piece. So I've just done a few little stretch wraps going around and around this way, and you can get the stretch wrap. It's in these rolls like this, you know, and you just basically put it on and you run it around and you know, pull it tight. And depending upon where you're storing it and if you're shipping it, you want to wrap it up like a big cocoon. If I was putting this on a shipper, I would wrap it with heavy cardboard, and then I would go around and around and around and around a bunch of times. And you'll also see I put a little towel here. A towel, an old pillow, some cardboard. You want to put something there to cushion this. You don't want to ratchet this thing down too tight, or it can actually damage the metal sidebars and go into them. So you want to just do it tight. Now, different things you can do with the keys. I actually got the keys taped to the glass right here. Normally I would put them inside of the coin box here and then put a piece of tape over it. So the keys to the game are in there, and then the keys to the head and any other stuff will be inside a bag in the game. So everything there is all secure. I left the keys right here because I'd already wrapped it and then realized I didn't have the keys, so I just taped them to the top. So there you have it. So now how do you break the game down? You'll see right now it's only on two legs and it's kind of leaning down. This is because I've partially broken it down. So what you do in this case is you need a little helper. You see those stools right there. What I will do is I'll lift up the far end of the game, and I will put the edge of the stool right underneath here, and lift the legs up off the ground so that one side of the machine, the legs are off the ground and it's on the stool. And then I will remove those two legs and it'll still be on the stool. Now, how did I get it down? How did one person get it down? Because that looks like that's a great way of breaking your back, right? Well, there's a trick to that. Let me show you. Let's see if I can reenact this where the stool would be. Okay, so whoop, do not need to break the camera, right? Okay, let's go around here and I'll show you where the stool would have been. Okay, so the game is up on top of this stool. I've taken the legs off. Now, how do I get it down off of the stool? So when you're lifting the game, if you're just, ideally you want two people, one person on each side, somebody, they both hold it up, push the stool out, and let one side down. That's the safest way. But if you don't have anybody to do it with you, here's what you can do. So you have your stool, you can reach underneath one side, and you can lift the game up a little bit. And you'll notice that one person, even from one side, can lift the game up off the stool. And then what I do, let me see if this is on camera, okay, is I will lift the game up, hold it up, then I will take the stool and lay it sideways and slowly lower it down just to the top of the stool. So now the bottom of this game is about a foot, 18 inches off the ground, but it's on the stool. I didn't lean all the way down. That's how you mess your back up. When you have all this weight on the game, you can lift it up just a little bit, grab the stool, slide it down, and then just lower it about a foot and a half. You're not leaning down too much. You're not putting too much weight. You're using your legs. So now it's on. Now that it's on this, what I do, and in this case, I didn't have it completely wrapped, so I could do this. So I reached in and I grabbed here, right? And I just used my legs and I lifted it and pushed the. I lifted it and I pushed forward a little bit and slid it off of the thing, and then just slowly lowered it down with my legs the last 12 to 18 inches. So I didn't do that really bad back thing where you have to lean and go all the way down to the ground, because you'll feel that. You can really hurt your back that way. Ideally you want to have two people, but this is how one person can do it. So now that I've got one end down, all I got to do now is just deal with this last part. So let's take care of this. So what I will do here is I'll lift the game up and just set it up like that. So now the game is upright with two legs on it and on the ground. So I will undo these bolts on the legs. I will then take the bolts out and screw them back in. So you can see I leave the leg bolts on the game. Those probably could be screwed in just a tad more. But you screw them in so that the bolts are right there. Take the legs, separate them and put them all together, and then shrink wrap those up in a little thing. And I like to put a note with the legs at which game they go to. If you have more than one game, it's always a good idea to do that. So with the game, let's see, we'll just take this and undo these bolts. And so in a game in an upright position like this game can be moved around with the dolly, and I've got leg protectors, so I'm going to take the leg protectors. I'll store them with the legs. And so that's one. And then I'll take these bolts here and I'll just hand screw them back into the little spot here. So we know the leg bolts are always right there with the leg. So I'll do the other one, do the same thing. And now with this, I can put this up on a pallet if it was packed a little better and prep it for shipping, and then you'd want to strap it to the pallet and then strap any other materials and stuff around it, and then you've got the game ready to go for shipping. You could take one of these. There's a Harbor Freight dolly, one of these deals, and use this. And it's nice to be able to, like, you can also leave one or two of these top legs on, and then just lean back, and there you go. Now you can wheel this game around pretty easily, just one person. You just got to be careful, it is quite heavy. Now, storing these games, if you're just going to store them someplace, I recommend you never ever store them straight on the ground. You always want to put them off the ground in case things get wet. What I like to do is to create one of these deals. This is just basically 4 2x4s, right? And I will create a little platform that I can put the game on. So it's about 4 inches, 3.5 inches up off the ground. That way, if there's any water or anything, the game doesn't get wet. Depending upon where you are and if it floods, this can be a real issue. But I just like the idea, especially if you're going to store it on carpet or anything. If it gets wet or moldy, you don't want that going to the game. So you can build one of these things. They're very easy. You could also use just 4x4s and just, lay them like railroad tracks and just put the game on top of them. And that works. This works well too. So that's how you take a game and you break it down for storage or for shipping, and it's pretty straightforward. And to set it back up, you basically just reverse the process. You put one set of legs on, and then you lean the game down, and then you lift the back end up and put it on a stool, put the other two legs on, and then start to unpack it and unwrap it, and you're good to go. So thank you guys for watching. There's a short little tutorial on how to break down a pinball machine and store it or ship it. If you have any more questions, send me an email, mike@pinballhelp.com. And until next time, catch you later.